Hey guys, welcome back. We're here to do the mid-year freakout tag. I kind of wish I was in my library right now, but it just so happens that I really needed to film this tonight, and this is where we landed. So, anyways, it's time for one of my favorite videos of every year, and most years I'm really late, but we're doing this early. I'm actually filming this on May 12th. However, by the time you guys watch this, a few things might change. Anyway, I'd like to go ahead and start with some overall stats briefly before we get started on the questions. All right, so I set my Goodreads goal, to read 100 books this year, which is pretty standard except for last year. I was trying to be like a superhero or something like that and set it at 200, which I didn't make it. I got pretty close though for me. But anyways, we went back to the standard 100 books to read. And as of today, I have finished 28 books. And that puts me about 8 books behind schedule. I consider 6 of those books to be favorites, 5 of them to be disappointing, or pretty much the worst books I've read so far. I have not kept up with all the DNFs this year like I have in previous years, and that's mostly just because I've been DNFing books left and right. There are so many and it isn't even worth talking about them or mentioning them, to be honest. I do have a running list of books that I have a legitimate reason that I didn't care for the books for whatever reason, but it's not every single book that I'm decided to DNF this year. It's just ones that I actually have something to say about, and when the time comes we'll talk about those. A big thing that I'm doing on my channel this year is to read down all the books that I already own. We are doing this by selecting books from a jar that I have put in there from all the books that are on my shelves. I have not been adding new books that I have acquired this year. I was kind of at the beginning of the year adding the books that I was hauling to the jar, but I decided not to do that. I'm really having the best time with this challenge. So far, I think I have finished 6 books from that project, or 8. I can't recall if 2 of them were maybe picked out of the jar or I just picked them up because I was interested in them. But either way, either between 6 or 8 books completed from the jar picks. And as I said, I've DNF'd a lot. If you're interested in that, I will leave the playlist to all of those videos in the description box below. They're a lot of fun, especially the ones that I did in March because I did like a big, huge spring cleaning unhaul. All right, let's go ahead and get into the questions. What is the best book that you've read so far in 2025? So far, I read The Otherwhere Post by Emily Taylor. I can't believe how much I loved this book, and I still don't know why I haven't gone out immediately and read her previous one. What is it called? Hotel Magnifique. The Otherwhere Post follows a girl. Her father has been accused of murder, and by proxy, she is also kind of shunned from society. For the most part, she just tries to stay on the down low and conceal her identity. And then she gets this very cryptic message that says that her father is innocent. So she does the only thing that she thinks she can do in order to get answers, and that is to infiltrate the Otherwhere Post. The Otherwhere Post is like kind of like your post office, right? And they are people who have an affinity for like magic. Magic system in this is where you can scribe letters with magic, and this is a really cool magic system. It's also very challenging and difficult to learn, so they get new apprentices in and they learn the way of scribing, and then they can get jobs of their own and start delivering the post of magical letters. While she is there, she meets a guy who is actually the son of the dean or, principal or whatever of the head honcho. And it's like, I absolutely loved everything about this. I felt that it was so balanced well. I liked the magic system. I thought it was really interesting. It can be very challenging. There's high stakes if you get it wrong. There is obviously a love story, as most stories have a love story, but this love story was one of the best. It's so subtle. It's kind of a grumpy sunshine, but there's not really grumpy. Like it's its own fresh new dynamic that doesn't really fit into any tropes exactly, which I thought was really great. And I thought the characters were really great. I loved everything about this. Question number 2. What has been your favorite sequel of the first half of the year? Now, I actually haven't read that many sequels. I'm working on one right now, but I would have to say Shadow of Night, which is All Souls trilogy, the second book of the All Souls trilogy, because I finished that one. It was really good. I thought it was so well done. It takes the characters from our modern day and puts them into a different timeline. And I think that that's what really shined throughout this book, was that it was so incredibly detailed. Like, if you have read many books where your characters are transplanted into different eras, I don't know that they all hone in on all the many different differences. Some that you can fake and some that you just cannot fake. You know what I'm saying? And I felt that in Shadow of Night, there were so many small details woven into it that were so great. It did have its issues. I don't love the love interest. I don't love the love story. Sometimes the way that the guy talks to her is just kind of weird and cringy. And I think because he's speaking French, like, I guess maybe if you know French and you can hear it in French and you know the culture more and how it should be used or something like that, or it's familiar to you, maybe then it sounds really sexy and wonderful and it's perfect. But to me, it's like weird, you know? Not that it's weird, but like to me, it felt, because when I say that word in my head, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's called Moncure. Moncure? I can't speak French. And so in my brain, it sounds so clunky and ugly. And so I'm just like, blech, every time he calls her Moncure or whatever. And then there's some other things too, like in this story, when vampires make other baby vampires, they call him their son. So Diana is newly married to Matthew. That's the names. Diana is newly with Matthew, and so they have decided to share their lives, have a family, and stuff like that. So she's just kind of adopting his vampire babies as hers as well. And so she calls them her children as well, which I guess I get it. It's like the mother, father, and like the kids, but like there's just something so weird about it that I can't ever get 100% on board with. So every time it's brought up, I'm just kind of like my brain will like hyper focus on it and kind of take me out of the series. But as a whole, despite those things, I do really like the story. You won't probably hear me talk about the third book in the series because I attempted that one and I just could not. I didn't like it. I didn't like the third book in the series, so I DNF'd it. The book that I'm reading now is called The Ragpicker King. It is the second book into the Sword Catcher, the Castellane series by Cassandra Clare, and I felt like I couldn't pick that one because I haven't actually finished it, but that's probably going to even be better. I'm really enjoying this series. So, but those are literally the only two books that I've read that, no, just kidding. I did read Supernaturally, which was the sequel to Paranormalcy, but I didn't like it. So, anyways. All right, question number 3. Is there a new release that you haven't read yet, but you're really excited for? Okay, there's quite a few, but the first two that came to mind at first was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. This one came out in January, and it sounds so good. I really want to read it. And then the other one would be Ragpicker King, which I am currently reading now. So, question number 4. What is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year? We have, I have 2. Always 2. Can never just leave it at 1. Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. This one is supposed to be coming out in July, but we'll see because they have pushed it back like 4 times, I want to say, based on the dates that I feel like I have seen in Goodreads, whatever. Anyways, they keep pushing it back, which I'm sad because I really want to read this book, but also I'm going to be patient because I just want a good book. I would hate for it to get rushed out and suffer, you know? So take your time, make it perfect. And then the next one is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This is a new favorite author of mine. I have read, I think I've read 3 of her books now at this point. No, I read 4 books now by her because I just finished Bad Dolls. But yeah, I'm really excited for oh wait, I have one more too. Death at the Door. This is the second book in a mystery series by Olivia Black. This comes out in October. This was so fun. It's like a cozy mystery about this woman who gets this apartment and it ended up being haunted, and she can communicate with this ghost, and then the guy across the hall from them ends up dead. They end up solving this crime together. You really get to know both of the characters. they really took the time for us to get to know the characters and develop a friendship between this ghost and this ghost seeing human. And then there's also another mystery of our ghost character and like, or why she died. It did say that she had committed suicide, but it's very slow burn on kind of bringing up little details about her life as a human or her life as a ghost. They don't dump it all on you right away. They just give you little tiny baby hints. I didn't even know we were supposed to be solving another like twofold mystery until more closer to like the second half or whatever of the book, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so good. I can't wait till the next book. All right, the next question is, what is your biggest disappointment so far? All Souls number 3, as I was just saying. Liked the first 2 books, couldn't get on with the third book. I ended up DNFing it, and it was so hard to DNF it too because I tried and I tried and I tried some more, and it just become it every time I went to pick up that book, it just started to become like I was more and more irritated at everything that was happening. It was like a chore, and so I was like, it's time to call it. It's not going to get any better for me. So there's that one. The other one was Bad Dolls, which I was just saying I'm really liking all of Rachel Harrison's books, and I listened to Bad Dolls on audiobook, and suddenly I found myself completely lost. First we were going to a baby shower, and then we were someplace completely else, and I was like, what the heck happened? I went back and reviewed it. It's actually short stories. There's like 3 short stories in this collection. One of them is called Bad Dolls, and so I went back and re-listened to it. It's really short. It's like, I think it's like a 6-hour or 5-hour audiobook or something like that, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but I did have to like go back and re-listen to it, and it just didn't, it still had the same Rachel Harrison vibes to it and everything like that, but for whatever reason something just didn't really wow me. But I think I just expected more of it, but it's not that I hated it. I've read other books that I didn't like either, but I didn't have high expectations for them to begin with. So that's why this one made it to the most disappointing, because I just had higher expectations for it. Like, I think one of my worst books would be Hex Hall. I really hated that book so far, but I didn't have high expectations for it anyways. I was nervous it was going to be written a little bit too young for me, and that's exactly what I got out of it. So yeah. Okay, the next question is, what is the biggest surprise so far? And this one is A Certain Slant of Light. This is the first in a duology, I believe. This is by Laura Whitcomb, and this one came up to read if you are a fan of Twilight. I've been kind of having 2 different searches going on because I'm kind of like reading for a couple different projects, as well as just, you know, a little bit more directed reading projects that are long term. And so I've been looking for more books that have more Twilight vibes, and this one kept popping up, so I read it, and it for me, it was like, it can go either way. It can be like really bad young adult, too manic pixie or melodramatic, but the writing blew me away. It really is so lush. It's just really heavy with melancholy vibes that run through the entire story. It had me feeling the hope and the love or whatever, and then also the sadness and fear that our 2 love interests were going to lose each other, and lots of other different feelings. But it really, I just could not believe how atmospheric that the author managed to convey with her words. It seems like a really special thing, you know. I guess I should explain what this book is about. I'm sorry. So this book follows a girl who is a ghost, and nobody can see her, and she like haunts people. So when she attaches herself to a person, she basically has to shadow them through their lives, and she will stay with that person until they pass on, and then she has to find a new person, because if she doesn't, then she goes to this bad place where she's like drowning. She doesn't really, it's very foggy. You don't know, you kind of know what's going on as the reader, but she doesn't know what's going on, and they convey that feeling of not really sure what's happening to her so eloquently, I guess. So then one day she's following one of her she's shadowing her person. She goes to the school, and this this guy can see her for the first time ever. And so for a while, she's only able to see him when her person goes to his job. So every day she goes to see him and she's really curious. Like, no one's ever been able to see her before. And so you can imagine it's very lonely and isolating. And so one thing leads to another. And I don't want to ruin anything else, but it's just so incredible. And then in the moments when she goes back to shadowing her human, other things start to come up that are really feed into the melancholy and the loneliness and isolation and sadness and people moving on without her. She gets very attached to the person that she's following when they are doing things in her life, like her person is married and they're going to have a baby, and it strikes a chord in her and just reminds her how alone she is, and that the one thing she loves literature, and he is a writer, and something has happened where he quits writing, and she tries to have a purpose, and tries to inspire him. She doesn't know if it's actually working, but I guess in her own space, she feels that it gives her a purpose, and she likes to read what he's writing, but she only gets to read when he's working and stuff because she can't really control her environment. And so it's kind of like this out of control feeling as well. And it's just, gosh, there's just so many multi-layers within this story. It was I guess I could put this book as a favorite, but it was just a really big surprise as well. I think everyone should give it a chance if really looking for that kind of thing. All right, the next question is a book that made you cry. I think A Certain Slant of Light, and I'm not a really big crier, so when I say cry, I mean like if I get a little teary-eyed or a little prick or a deep sadness, like that's as good as crying as I'm probably gonna get. So A Certain Slant of Light was really close there because there's a couple things that happen in the story that, goodness. And now even just when I'm talking about it and I'm really analyzing our main character, because when you're reading the book, you're just kind of like, okay, what's going to happen next? How is this going to play out? But then when the book concludes, you can go back and think about your character and the space that she was in, and it actually brings so much sadness that no one should feel that lonely. If you've ever felt lonely in your life, which I think everyone could relate to that feeling at some point in their life. So if you've ever felt that, it's just so miserable. And so you get a lot of empathy. So I guess that's my answer for that one. And then also Sunrise on the Reaping. Okay, I know it's kind of a silly answer. I mean, it's not. There's one incident in Sunrise on the Reaping that I was just like, are you kidding me? But it's such a weird experience too, because what's gonna happen. You see it coming a mile away, but when it happens, it's still devastating, because there's a part where you think you know what's gonna happen, but then it doesn't, and then you're like, wait a minute, maybe they're gonna play this out differently, and then it does, and you're just like, oh my god. Thanks for the false sense of hope, Okay, the next question is a book that made you happy. And this one is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. And she's actually coming out with a second book, A Road Trip with a Vampire. I think they're completely different characters, but I loved this book. It was so much fun. You obviously kind of already know what's going to happen. It's in the title, but just the journey and how they describe this vampire as he's the vampire and the human, how they're communicating, and the differences when you haven't really gotten out in all these years, how hard it is to acclimate to modern society and stuff. Those little things, I just had such a great time with this. Really feel good. It's not spicy at all, which I very much appreciate, because I've tried to read some of these others light-hearted, quirky books. What was that one about the demon? My boyfriend's a demon or whatever. I don't even know. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And then we got to the sex scene and I was like, meh, nah, no thank you. So, okay, the very last question is, what books do you want to read by the end of the year? And to be honest, there are so many. At the beginning of the year, I set out to read all of these big classic books. 6 of them. No, not even. I gave myself 3 months to read each one of these big boy classics. That's not going very well this year. The one I'm working on right now is Grapes of Wrath. I do really want to finish that one though. And then I also want to read Catch-22. That's more of a modern classic. I also want to finish the Crescent City series because the 3rd book came out. I've been holding on to it. I just haven't read it because I had it in my mind that I was going to reread all of the, I read Throne of Glass, I was going to reread Akatar, and then I was going to read Crescent City and finish up with the last newest book. I don't know if I'm going to go through that whole rodeo though. I might just go ahead and reread Crescent City, but we'll see. I think I'm actually going to read through Holly Black's fairy series first. I'm working on the modern fairy tales right now, and then I'll read The Cruel Prince and those 3 books. And then I think she's got like what, Darkest Part of the Forest, I think, comes with it as well. So I was going to read through all the Holly Black books first and then maybe go back to the Sarah J. Maas books. That would be the ideal plan if I can make it happen this year, because I still have a lot of other things I'm doing as well. I kind of have these loose plans, but I have to be very able to just read what I want to read in the moment. That's like my background plan, because my main project this year, I call it like a project. I don't know why I call it project, because like the main thing I'm doing this year is the Read It or Haul It challenges. So those books kind of take precedence, and then the other ones are like extra. Okay guys, well that wraps up the mid-year freakout tag. Thank you all so much for watching. I love everyone's responses to these, so if you do this, drop your links in a comment please, so I can go and watch your videos. And thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.